Welcome back to Talkville, the ultimate Smallville rewatch podcast, folks, where we go back and we watch every friggin' episode of Smallville and then we review it. Yes, we're doing this. The show that changed our lives forever. Maybe it changed your lives. If you're watching it for the first time, we welcome you. This is a lot of fun. We're enjoying ourselves. And hey, welcome Ryan Tejas, who is not feeling well. He has a bad cold. It's not COVID, but we're not going to talk to him much today.
That's fine. I appreciate that. And that sucks.
Clammy.
Hey,
I am on the mend. Can I tell you guys a quick story? Today I was at the store and I had to load the stuff up in my truck, and these two guys were helping me. And the one guy was like, "Hey, Tom," and the other guy was like, I could hear that they were like, "How do you know him?" Whatever. And the guy's like, "No, Smallville." Blah, blah, blah. The guy goes, "No effing way!" Like way too loud. And I was like, "Yeah, man, how you doing?" He goes, "I watch Smallville once a week still." And I'm like, "Really? Do you know about the podcast?" He goes, "You guys have a podcast?" And this dude hit me with his open palm in the chest.
Jeez.
Like Elaine from Friends. He goes, boom. And I was like, bro. And he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And then he spent 10 minutes apologizing, but he's very excited that there's a podcast.
Welcome, dude, wherever you are, who hit Tom hard in the chest. Welcome, Tom. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing all right. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
It's an interesting episode, I thought.
Yeah. If you didn't get a chance to call in and leave your questions for this episode, make sure you get some for future episodes. Our hotline is 213-538-2883. That's 213-538-2883. And our socials. We love it. Look, we're a new podcast, so it's important that you follow us on our handles and mostly write a review and subscribe. Those are the big things. Talkville Podcast. At Talkville Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. That's easy. And Talkville Pod at Talkville Pod on the Twitter. Also, got a shout out to our lovable patrons, patreon.com/Talkville. And it's really important. And thank you all patrons. And we're going to give the shout outs after the show to all the top tier patrons. And you know what? We've got shirts. I think shirts we're ready to go.
We do?
They just sent me these shirts and they're awesome. Should I run and get one?
Say locals only? Yeah.
Here we are.
Look at that. Not exactly slimming, but...
And a good quality shirt, too. I got to tell you, I was surprised how soft it is. Here's another shirt.
I like that one.
Look at that.
That's a good one.
These are large. I'm a medium, so I can't wear them. But nonetheless...
You're more of a medium, aren't you?
We're really excited about this. We've had some great episodes, and today we're going to discuss. Let's just get into it. Let's get into season 1, episode 16. This is Stray.
You know, I think that's why when you said 16, that made a lot of sense to me, because I said to you just before we started, I'm like, I really don't remember doing this episode.
You really don't.
I think it's because we were 16 episodes in, and I was probably hitting some version of a wall.
Yeah.
Watching this episode was all new to me. All of it.
Wow.
Whoa.
Crazy.
All right. The title is Stray. It aired April 16th, 2002. The director was Paul Shapiro. Don't recall him. Writers Al Goff, Miles Miller, Philip Levins. Guest star Ryan Kelley as Ryan James. Jim Shield as James Gibson. And Brandy Ledford as Deborah Birch. I remember Jim. I remember all of them. I remember all those actors vaguely, but I do remember them. I remember they were nice. I remember Brandy was nice.
Ryan looked familiar to me, but I like.
You didn't remember Little Ryan?
I mean, I was like, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup, to be honest. And that's not his fault. I think I was just hitting a wall at some point in the first season. He seemed really nice. I don't know.
I thought he did a fantastic job. I really did. He really brought those tears. I think they were his own tears too. I don't think he got any glycerin. There's a trick, folks, that if you can't cry or you just run out of tears, our makeup artist, Natalie, will come over and she has this little device where she blows glycerin in your eyes.
It's menthol.
Or menthol. And it makes your eyes well up and they're like, all right, roll camera. And then
it's a menthol cigarette that she would smoke, and she'd blow it in your eyes.
She'd blow it in your eyes. I remember I did that on Impastor just to get my eyes all, and it just puffed my eyes out, and I looked like shit in that episode. I was like, what the hell am I doing? So anyway, the synopsis: Martha Kent injures mind-reading Ryan in a car accident, and he fakes amnesia to get away from his criminal step-parents. His step-parents hatch an elaborate plan to steal him back and use his abilities to rob Lex Luthor. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. But
they weren't after his comic book collection.
Yeah, which Greg Beeman did the artwork for the comic book, and the comic book was what? What was it called?
Warrior Angel.
Angel.
Actually, you know what? I sit corrected. I did remember that.
Yeah,
because I remember Greg showing me. I'm like, who drew that? That looks great. And he's like, I did.
And speaking of Greg Beeman, if we're lucky enough, in about 20 minutes or so, he's going to come on the Zoom and he's going to talk to us about what he recalls, perhaps, from Smallville. Remember, he was a big showrunner. He became the showrunner of Smallville. He directed a lot of the big episodes, most of the great episodes he directed. He directed movies like License to Drive back in the 80s. He's done a lot of stuff, and he was a joy to be around. He and I sold a TV show together. It didn't get bought, but someone stole it, and they made another show out of it. Anyway, here we go. Let's go to the play-by-play. Opening scene, we see Ryan in a pawn shop getting a break from the shop owner on a figurine after telling them his parents are dead. We learn Ryan was only inside to see what the pawn shop safe combination was, which he shares with his step-parents, James Gibson and Deborah Birch.
I thought he did a great job selling that he wasn't there to do. He did a good job lying. His character did in that moment.
Yeah, you could sort of tell that he didn't want to lie, but he sort of had to. You could see already the wheels turning, and well, what's the matter?
Just the sun. For those listening, Michael has just changed glasses. It doesn't matter to anyone listening, but if you're watching,
well,
there was a wardrobe change.
The reason I changed glasses because those are more for like hanging out with people because they're not a strong prescription. But when I'm reading off this, I realized I can't read this. So I needed to put on my stronger glasses. In fact, Tom just put on his stronger glasses.
Ryan, did you bring any glasses today?
By the way, we're on episode 16 of 22 for the first season. We're really excited. We're barreling through them. So here we go. James and Deborah then enter the shop to rob the place and end up shooting and killing the old shop owner. When Ryan sees this, he flees. I thought this was pretty brutal. In fact, a lot of this episode, there were some brutal deaths. I mean, just gunning down people. It was like, holy crap, this is Smallville, and we're just, he just blasted that old man. And I felt kind of bad for him. I was like,
yeah, it was a straight up kill. A lot of times it's, oh, you're in the car, and I'm going to pour gasoline over the top of the car, the Mercedes, and set you on fire, and let's see what happens. But
it's still pretty brutal.
Yeah,
that's still pretty brutal. But let's see what happens.
Yes,
this is very on purpose.
And later on, we're going to talk about when Lex gets thrown out of the limo. We had talked about that earlier about my stuntman who was able to jump out of the limousine at 60 miles an hour, but he couldn't jump off the second floor of something. But that was the stunt. If you guys recall in the previous episode, I discussed it.
I remember seeing that and physically going, like when his head hit the ground.
Oh, man. I remember him bleeding.
No.
And we'll talk about that too, because I have a little problem with on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. It's like, Lex, and there's Clark, and I don't turn around. I made sure I told the director, I remember that where I was, I said, I'm not going to turn around, so you have to cover me, because also if I turn around, it looks kind of weird. I'm in my own pain. I don't want to be able to see him and what he's doing.
It's 45 more minutes.
Yes.
We have to be here.
Yeah, we have to be here. So Ryan flees. He runs across a road where he is hit by Martha Kent driving, and shocked by this, Martha goes to help Ryan and rushes him to the hospital. He was pretty much laid out. I mean, he was hit by a car. He had no internal damage. He just had some scrapes. And anyway, at the hospital, Ryan doesn't show any serious injuries from the crash, but the doctor states he may be in post-traumatic shock. Yeah, because he has no caregiver, he will have to spend the night in juvenile detention before CPS can pick him up. But Clark suggests he stays with them.
And that's because his parents aren't his parents.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But we don't know that, do we? We don't know that yet.
Or is he protecting them? We don't know.
I don't think he's protecting them. I think he's trying to get the hell away from them. At the Kent farm the next day, Ryan prepares food for everyone by guessing the way he likes their breakfast. It kind of amazes me that this kid can make such an elaborate breakfast, goes into their...
Did they have that much pancake mix just already?
I mean, it's Martha Kent, for God's sakes.
I mean, I guess. But they just had all these things ready to go. That's a big
I can't
breakfast.
remember one freaking time Ken sat down for pancakes in this episode.
And I like that he can't read Clark's mind. That was kind of cool that he can't read your mind. Just like, you know.
But why not? Like, it was cool he couldn't, but I didn't know why.
You're an alien.
Huh?
Because you're an alien. So he prepares food for everyone. He's not able to guess Clark's preference. Clark goes to connect with Ryan, who is concerned nobody believes him or will like him if they know his past. The two shoot hoops and have a nice brotherly scene together. Back at the hospital, and I thought that was really nice too. I thought your connection with him was really nice. That's why I'm surprised that you don't remember stuff, because it was really sweet, and it was just like you were you were a good big brother, and it was like it was nice to see.
I mean, listen, again, it all seems very familiar. I just don't have like accolades from like when we weren't filming. I don't have like, I don't know. It's really strange.
Back at the hospital, James, Ryan's stepfather, poses as a detective looking for Ryan. He just had like a weird kind of psycho look to him, didn't he? He just looked like he was kind of a bad guy. I remember meeting him in real life, and he was sweet as can be, but like he fit that character pretty damn good. At Luther Mansion, Lex is visited by Lionel. Lex, who offers him a new position in Metropolis as special advisor to the chairman after more than adequate performance down in Smallville.
Who's do we know who the chairman is? Because I would think it'd be Lionel. No, Lionel's just the CEO.
I think he's... Well, Lex would be second
Lex,
in charge.
would you like to be my special advisor?
Lex! It's always nice to see John Glover, right? We always like to see him come in and have a little Lionel Lex moment. You know, it's just like, there's definitely a moment in that where he says, "You've been waiting for this your whole life, Lex." And Lex says, "I've been waiting for other things too, Dad," or something like saying, "I love you." Like, you know. And that's something I can relate. Lex and Rosenbaum can sort of relate, because my dad never said it either. I never heard that from him. So I was like, I remember being in that moment. Sometimes I would take that, you know, subtext or my life and my relationship with my father, and I would use it sometimes.
Come in flaunting his gorgeous mane of hair in front of your face. Just...
Exactly. God, my father used to do that. No, my father
did they spend, you know, if they spent extra time on his hair, like just to make it, like, was it the same person who was shaving your head on the makeup?
No. Natalie was the makeup artist who shaved my head. The hairstylist was, why did I just go blank? The two of them, the guy and the woman, Christine, who passed away.
We did.
God bless her. I love Christine. I loved you so much. You were such a sweetheart.
She was great. I enjoyed her very much, but I enjoyed your relationship with her because you didn't have any hair. And so she didn't. The relationship you had with her was just friendship.
Yeah.
Because it was not professional.
Yeah.
It was like she had no use for you. Professionally.
True. She got. And what was the other guy's name? Why can't I remember it?
Oh yeah, he had
nice hair. He was.
Yeah.
He was there for years. Why can't we remember his name? It's because it's been 10 years since the show ended or more.
Idiots.
I know everybody's gonna kill me who's listening. I know Troy Rudolph is gonna be giving me shit. Clark.
Troy, I definitely think that Troy knows. Yeah. I the other thing I was going to ask you is like, what was more exhilarating, watching John Glover show up on set, or walking into the trailer and seeing him in there? Because he always had something happening. You know what I mean? He always had an energy. He always has.
He did. He always just had something going on. So many fun stories with John Glover. It just was always a treat. When you were in a bad mood, he would just go, "Oh," like, "Look at this guy who's in a bad mood," and he would kind of laugh.
Are you in a bad mood?
He would laugh, like, "Okay, we won't talk to Michael." It was just,
and it helps because you acknowledge it and then it disappears.
Yeah, it's kind of like, "Oh, am I upset? Well, who cares? I'm lucky to be here." Clark brings Ryan to school to meet Chloe at the torch. She hears his story and compares it to a German folklore of Caspar Hauser, who was found in the woods. Before correctly finishing the tragic ending to the story, Ryan does it for her, seemingly reading her mind. Ryan uses his powers to tell Clark and Chloe likes him, that Chloe likes him and wants him to ask her to the dance. I thought that was rude. But anyway, she's always had it out for him.
Or in for him.
Yeah, in for him. Clark then parades Ryan to the Talon, to meet Lana. Lex shows up and admires Ryan's Warrior Angel comic book, saying he owns the entire series. Ryan's rude to Lex throughout the conversation, and Clark asks why. Ryan tells him Lex is leaving for another job soon anyway. This causes Clark to tell Ryan to stop making up all these stories.
So, Clark, I have a secret. Chloe is in love with you. Okay. Hey, what's this deal with the guy Lex? Don't worry, he's leaving town soon. Like, where's the discretion?
Yeah.
This kid has no discretion.
Like, where's the...
I'm like, hey, dude, this is not the way to make friends, all right?
Clark, Lex is in love with you. Like, what?
I wonder what he would say, like, if he was asking, like, he was talking to me, with the first thing would come up. Hey, Clark, this guy's having a panic attack. I don't know why, but geez, this guy needs some help. I don't know. James arrives to the town and sends Ryan coming out the back door. James pursues, but Ryan is able to hide in a dumpster. Clark runs out back to save Ryan before he is compacted with other trash in the trash truck he was unknowingly dumped into. Once Clark saves him, he says, "Don't worry, you're safe now," which is the same thing the Warrior Angel said in the last frame of the comic that Ryan was reading. I didn't know that.
Oh, it was framed. They made a point of zooming in on that panel that he was reading.
Yeah, I didn't.
And then he got chased, and then Clark opens up the thing, and it's the exact same as the panel.
Pretty neat.
Very deliberate.
Very deliberate.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool in the trash compactor too. I felt like Star Wars when the thing's closing in.
Yeah.
They're dying. Can't you hear them?
I don't remember.
3PO!
I don't remember when in the next 9 years of this show, but at one point, maybe some fans remember, they painted a Warrior Angel on a background somewhere. And we didn't talk about it, but I remember being like, hey, is it that? And they're like, yeah, from season 1. So if anybody remembers what episode that is, please let us know.
Wow. Back at Kent Farm, Lex makes his way into the barn to talk with Clark. Clark talks about what it's like to having a sibling, and Lex talks about the younger brother he had before he tragically passed away as an infant. This leads to a major split in the Luthor family. I thought this was a really nice moment, and it was sad. It's another piece to the puzzle, and it kind of gives you more subtext of what Lex has been through. And we don't even know what really happened, which we will find out later in the series. What happened to his brother Julian? We know that he died in his crib, but there's more to it than that. Let's just say that. I don't want to give any spoilers away for those listening. But it was a good conversation. It was like, Clark was a little awkward because he didn't know what to say to Lex, and I'm sorry. And I just thought that was a really good scene. It was kind of powerful, and it was just the two of us hanging out. I think those scenes between us are pretty good. They're pretty.
I think this
solid.
might be Ryan's favorite scene of the episode. I'm gonna go on record right now, only because it's so revealing. You don't expect it, and it shows a side to Lex that you just wouldn't understand.
Clark is surprised when Lex talks about the job offer he was offered, and is curious if Lex told Ryan about that or not. The next day, Jonathan takes Ryan to a film festival at the Talon. While there, Ryan talks with Lana and shares that he thinks Clark has been hiding something. When Ryan and Jonathan get back home to the Kent farm, we see the step-parents have found him as James and Deborah are watching outside. Clark and Chloe go to investigate the crash site where Ryan was hit to better understand where he came from, and amazingly find a bright blue backpack mere feet from the road. They examine the bag.
First time we see the spaceship, by the way, in the series.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. They examine the bag and find a picture of Ryan with his mother. Then Clark confronts Chloe about Ryan, saying she wants to go to the dance with Clark. Back at the Kent farm, Clark catches Ryan looking at his spaceship that he stowed away. Ryan uses his moment of vulnerability to confide in Clark that he can read people's minds. Ryan vows to keep his secret and even offers to share what Lana's secret is, but Clark denies it. Later that night at the Kent farm, Deborah arrives impersonating CPS to take Ryan away. Clark arrives home 15 minutes later to hear the news. He is greeted by Lex, who rolls up in a limo and presents Clark with a sword before his night out in Metropolis. As Lex leaves, we see a shot of the limo driver and find out that it is Ryan's stepfather, James. I thought that conversation between us was just stupid, but we needed to get Lex in a limo. It was just ridiculous. I literally came there and go, here's a sword. I haven't decided yet. Here's a sword. It's not even a sword. It's a foil. It just was the stupidest thing I've ever imagined.
Do you recall having those feelings before the scene and then just sort of like buckling up and being like, I got to sell it. This is my job. This is why I'm here. I got to sell this stuff.
That's what you do. You just sell it. And that's
your job.
But now watching it years later, I'm just like, what is this scene? This scene does nothing except it does get Lex in the limo, which we need to get him in. And he's always driving, but this time he's taking a limo. I guess we're going to Metropolis, so we'll take a limo this time. And God forbid Lex is, doesn't know his driver. Don't you think he has the same driver he trusts, and he's got some weird fuck driving his limo? New
driver, just like he's got new security guards all the time.
Yeah, what is going on? Good
By the
Lord.
way, that episode that I just talked about earlier in this podcast of pouring the gasoline on the Mercedes, in that scene, you said to Clark and the other character, you're like, hop in, and you're going to Metropolis together. You're under the influence of the kryptonite. But at least that time, even under the influence, you're going to drive. But this time, no.
No. Mid-ride, the limo pulls over. Ryan is thrown into the back with Lex, and James attacks Lex, informing him that they want the password access to his Luthor trust fund. Ryan reads his mind to discover it's Julian, making Lex useless to them and thrown out of the moving car.
Sorry, question. Do kids who have trust funds, are they allowed to have the password? I thought that was the whole thing.
Who knows? I don't think you're allowed. Once you're over 18.
Well,
Brian, do you have the password
to my trust fund? No.
Right.
Trust fund. No, but also the kid made it up, because it wasn't the password.
Right. But he must have,
because Julian was on his mind.
He was on his mind, exactly.
That's the only thing he could read, because he obviously doesn't have the password.
Chloe shows up to the Kent farm and shares a picture of Ryan's stepfather with Clark, who instantly recognizes him as Lex's limo driver. Clark springs into action. James, Deborah, and Ryan pull in front of a bowling alley, of course, where they use a laptop to try and enter the Luthor account to access the funds.
Access?
By the way,
assess.
Bowling alleys.
To access the funds. Jeez.
The emphasis was wrong.
Ryan gave them the wrong
Is it just me, or are I don't think people go bowling enough.
I love bowling.
I don't.
Not since COVID.
Every time I go bowling, I think to myself, why don't I do this more often?
I miss bowling.
Bowling is fun.
My back always hurts when I go bowling. Ryan gives them the wrong password and then pins James and Deborah against each other, saying James was planning to flip after getting the money. He's going to kill her. This shocks Deborah and James, he ends up shooting and killing her in the parking lot. This was like, holy crap, another 2 murders. And then the janitor walks out. 3 murders. He kills the bowling alley janitor. Good Lord.
I got the feeling like he just started killing people, because how did he get along this?
No, he's been killing people. If you don't care, if you're just killing people like that, you've killed people before.
Oh, okay.
As James is shooting into the lanes at the cosmic bowling alley, Clark shows up to save him, to save Ryan.
To shave him.
Just before Ryan is shot, Clark chucks a bowling ball across the alley, through a wall, and into the chest of James, knocking him out. I thought that was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was a good idea.
I thought it would kill him, though. You hit that hard with a bowling ball, it was going to crush your chest. Probably.
They went through the wall first.
Yeah, the wall slowed it down.
Well, it doesn't tell you if he died or not, does it?
I bet he's not dead. I bet this is one
collapsed lung or two.
This is one of those Clark knocks someone unconscious kind of things.
Clark takes Ryan to the town to say goodbye to Lana, who gives him a goodbye kiss. Ooh. At the Luthor mansion, Lex lets Lionel know that he is not ready to return to Metropolis yet. Before Ryan leaves for Edge City with his aunt, he says goodbye to the Kent family and tells them he knows Clark's secret but plans to keep it. We then get played out gently to Superman by 5 for fighting as Clark gets warned by Ryan to be careful with Lex and gifted his Warrior Angel comic collection. I can't stand to fly.
I was waiting all fucking season for that song to appear.
Not that night.
And I thought it was going to be the finale because it's the most on the nose.
Quintessential.
It was very popular. But they chose this episode. I couldn't believe it.
You know, it's so funny that maybe it's not funny. I think it's funny. The song's out there. Everybody knows about it. And when I'm around people and the song comes on at a restaurant or on the radio, everybody goes, "Hey, have you?" I'm like, "Yeah,
I've heard that freaking song."
Yeah,
you know what I like? I like that Ryan tells him to be careful about Lex, but what I like about it, he says his mind is filled with darkness or something. He's got a lot of dark thoughts. He didn't give away like he's planning on doing all these evil things. He just, because everything's surfaced, he can only get what's surface, but he's got a lot of darkness in his mind, and just be careful. And that was kind of cool. Kind of gave me chills.
I got this sense that like he can't read Clark's mind, and that's confusing, but I also got the sense that he couldn't get into Lex's mind. I just thought that he thought that there was a layer there. That's what I got from
too
it.
Cloudy,
cool.
too much going on.
Yeah.
The actor Joe. Here's interesting things of note, folks. Interesting things of note. Can we add music to that? The actor Joe Maffei, who plays the bowling alley worker in episode, also plays the newsstand/coffee stand guy in Metropolis in seasons 8, 9, and 10. Ryan Kelley, who plays Ryan James, was 15 years old during the filming of this episode, which would make him the exact age that Clark Kent, Lana Lang, Chloe Sullivan, and Pete Ross are all supposed to be.
I mean, he was only what, 18 years younger than you at the time?
Can you believe he's actually the right age to be playing Clark? And you were 25 or 26. The climax
I remember him at the casting for the role.
Right.
It was me.
The climax shot was shot. I like that. The climax was shot on location in a bowling alley in Richmond, BC, Canada, named Lois Lanes.
Yep. That's cool.
In the cafe, Lex Luthor mentions he likes the comic book character of Warrior Angel, a play on Superman, particularly because he is bald. Ryan is the first character with an ability not due to meteor rock infection.
Do we know where? Do we know how?
We don't know how.
He just has.
He can just read minds.
He's like a...
If you could read my mind, love.
You could read my mind.
What a tale my thoughts could tell. And he's here.
Thanks for being here, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Johnny Cash.
I kept hearing about it, and I thought, wait, how come I've not been on?
You know what's funny is we talk about you every episode, Beeman. You started out as a director and became the showrunner and the mastermind behind a lot of the stuff that went on in Smallville. Everybody really liked working with you. You worked fast. You were creative. You were collaborative. We just adore you, and we're glad you're here. And we hope that you'll come back a few times throughout the series when we talk about it.
Good. Yeah, it's better. If you're going to talk about me, I should be here.
What do you remember? What's the first memory that comes to you when you think of Smallville? When you think of working on Smallville, the first thing that comes to your head?
Well, first of all, I was booked that year to direct a whole bunch of episodes, and I was kind of excited. I was going to do Malcolm in the Middle. I was going to do NYPD Blue, and I knew Miles and Al because I'd worked with them on another show, and so my agent sent me Smallville, but I had no idea what it was. Right, so I put in the VHS tape, and I was watching it. And I knew that they were offering me to do an episode, but I had no idea what the show was. So I'm watching it, and the opening is with like Lionel and this little red-haired kid and this and that. And then there was a moment when the meteors land and there's that big explosion. And when little Lex is laying there in the cornfield with no hair, I suddenly said, "Oh my God, this is Superman! This is Superman!" No one had told me, right? I just got a videotape. And so I went up there.
Oh, that's cool.
To do episode 3, Hothead.
Yes.
And so there was this moment when Tom, there was a moment where like a coach, there was a fire or something, and the coach was caught in the car, and we had this door on a wire, and Tom grabbed it and pulled. And I remember kind of making a couple of adjustments to make it better. And then it was like my second or third day of shooting, and Tom pulled the door off the car and threw it. And I remember thinking, like, I fucking love this show. This is so cool. I love this show. This is awesome. Like, it was just a job at first, right? And then, to tell you the truth, then what happened was I could see that there was like a lot of chaos going on. And Miles and Al were in LA and they were remote, and there was things. I kind of got the feeling like that not the people behind the scenes on the ground in Vancouver didn't know how to make the show at that point in time. And I sort of got in my mind, like, wait a second, they don't know how to make the show. Miles and Al did, but they were not there. And I was like, I know how to make this show. So I kind of started a campaign with my agents of like, let these guys know if there's any reason that they want me to stay. Like, I'd like that. Like, I could see myself really being on this show full time. So I kind of like started a campaign with Miles and Al through my agents to propose to them the idea that if they wanted me to stay, I could see myself doing that. And
I'm so glad you did, because one of the things that we talk about frequently when it comes to you on the show is that you were able to kind of bring this heart and soul and confidence to the show, which I needed. And then even later on in the years, you would come in and direct huge episodes. And it was always like, oh, Beeman's going to direct it? Okay, we're going to be fine. It was just such a confidence.
Thanks, Tom.
And I'm so glad I mean that with all my heart. And it's, I think your fingerprint is all over this series for sure.
Yeah, I agree too. And Tom and Greg, I always think of like when you say about chaotic, there's so much chaos going on the show. Can you explain some of that? Because I know you as someone who's a fighter who really believes in things that you're going to fight for it. And then there's that Beeman who completely shuts down, who's almost like, all right, I'm done. I've said my thing. I'm stop. I just remember the Beeman is like, no. And then you're like, you feel defeated, you just get really quiet.
Well,
you get really
sorry,
quiet.
Greg, real quick, but I recall, I don't remember what the circumstances was, but there's one point where you had walked into one scene, like, I know this is so vague, and you were like, okay, here's what we're gonna do, and you were like, this, and somebody said something, you were like, what did I just say? And it wasn't rude. You've never been rude. It was nothing. But you're just like,
well,
I've
been rude. I was more of a dick back then. I've worked on that a lot. The show has a certain amount of, like, let's face the facts. The show, especially at its moment in history with the level of where technology was at in 2002 and 3 and 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, the level of technology, because I've done other shows since then, just like what you can do with wire pulls, what you can do with programming in, you can reprogram wire moves and stuff that we used to have to do in this kind of very old fashioned way. And visual effects have become so much easier to do. It was the beginning, right? Smallville's the beginning of a whole genre that's now commonplace. And I think that we were learning how to do it for the entire industry. If you want to know the truth, like, we were learning how to make that show for the entire industry. So it was chaotic. Partly there's nothing you can do about that. If you're going to write gigantic fight scenes, and people throwing each other 35 feet and, buildings falling down and barns exploding and all the stuff that we did routinely in an era when no one's done that before. And you didn't, and you have to learn how to do it before you do it. Like, and you have to really figure out how we're going to do this thing that no one's ever done on TV. They've done it in movies, but no one's done it like on a 8 or 9 day shoot. There's a certain amount of chaos that goes into that. Why I think season 1 was really chaotic. It was just under budgeted. It's a classic problem that, what the studio thought it was going to cost wasn't what it cost. And frankly, I also think Miles and I were writing, like, there was a huge discrepancy between what the studio had the budget at and what Miles and I were writing, because they were writing action and special effects in like scene after scene after. I remember one scene, right? What was it? Lex got Clark's power set. There was something in the script that we never did where Lex was just like walking down the street, hitting parking, like the parking meters and the change was falling out. Like, he was just walking down and smashing 15 parking meters in a row. We never ended up doing that, but that was just like a thing between, he was just walking down the street from point A to point B. So Miles and I were writing this gigantic, epic with huge visual effects and even small stunts and visual effects in every single scene. And the studio had budgeted, a show about a boy in a farm and and classroom scenes, right? That was literally like the conversations I had with the guy who was the line.
By the way, I love this story because every time he would have punched, it's literally money. It's just money falling on the ground.
And there was this whole long debate. There was a whole debate about, okay, so are we gonna make 15 shatterable, parking meters full of change, or are we gonna do it digitally? And like how many? Like it was just an astronomical number for a shot where someone was gonna walk down the street, literally just going into the bakery. It was just something to do as they were walking down the street. So anyway, both by season 2, like both those things worked to the middles, right? The studio gave us more money, and they started writing a little more reasonably, especially when Bob Hargrove came on.
What was the biggest hurdle that you recall in that early season when you started as showrunner, when they made that call to you and they said, "Hey, Greg, we do want you we want you to be more of an integral part of this show." Like
Greg goes, let me know if you finished Jitters yet before I accept this job. Even Jitters, even you remember that.
I directed half of Jitters.
Oh my God.
So what was the biggest hurdle? All of season 1. Remember, we brought I don't even really blame the guy who was the original line producer. I think he was just in overwhelm, and he had literally been told that he was going to be making a much smaller show than the scripts that were coming in. I mean, okay, I'll tell you my other early experience. So I got my script. So Hothead, right? See, episode 3, right? The first time I read it was on the plane flying up, and I'm reading it, and it's like there's a scene where the coach, the coach's head is on fire. There's a scene where he's yelling at the kids. He's yelling at his football players, and the sprinklers start shooting out fire. There's a scene where Allison is in the torch office, and the torch office catches on fire, and then she's running, and it said a living, breathing wall of flame chases her. Like that's what the script said. Like in every other scene, there was like, oh yeah, there's a gigantic fire scene, and then Clark walks through a wall of fire, knocks out the bad coach. It went on and on and on. And I land in Vancouver, and I go to the production office. And
by the way, this is like Rosenbaum showing up. I read the script on the plane on the way up.
I think I got it the night before, but it is possible that I had it for a few days and I didn't bother to read it till I was on the plane. And I get there, and he goes, "Finally, we have a makeable script." And I'm like, "What? I'd never read anything like it." I was like, "Oh my God." So, I mean,
were you overwhelmed?
Robert Petrovich.
No, I wasn't overwhelmed, although I had never really done a lot of fire before. But, back then.
So Greg, we did that episode in the podcast earlier, and Rosenbaum literally asked me, he goes, "Did they really shoot fire out of those sprinklers?" And
yeah, we did. You remember how it smelled? Like it was gas. We shot some kind of propane or gas out of those sprinklers, and
I'm wrong.
I got nauseous. A bunch of crew people got nauseous.
Oh my God! So it really was, because people were asking those questions. Fans or listeners or co-watchers were calling in, and they were asking us about this.
So like when you say why was it chaotic, just think about that one scene. The effects guys had to figure out, okay, so we have to run water through the line, and then on camera switch water off through like 20 sprinklers, and then pump in propane and ignite it like on camera. Like that's not a small technical feat,
with people
right?
around. With people around.
with people. And I don't know whether it was gas or propane, but like a lot of people got nauseous. I got nauseous. It was like pretty gnarly. It stunk, but it looked cool.
Did you butt heads a lot with Alan Miles or the studio? Did you have to like fight for things, or were they were always on your side?
I always got the sense that you were sort of in rhythm with them. Not arguing, but I always got the sense that you were in rhythm with them.
Well, so what I learned as a human with Miles and Al got me comfortable with confrontation, which I previously had never been comfortable with. Mostly I was in harmony with them, and I mostly wanted to execute their vision, and if I could make their vision bigger and better. But we would periodically butt heads, because they would not be happy a lot. I'd get phone calls where they were looking at dailies and were just not happy with something that had happened. And I really wore all that. Like anytime they weren't happy, I was it made me miserable for days and days on end.
That was a lot of the Lex scenes, right?
A lot of the Lex
scenes.
Yeah,
I was just, we're looking at Rosenbaum's performance and what the fuck?
No, but they're perfectionists and they wanted everything to be great and their jobs are on the line. So they're probably going through a lot at the same time and they're trying to say, no, this is what we want. And you're taking all the brunt of the shit.
Well, and like you said, they're not there. You know, they're watching.
They had super high standards. And I was, I took on the assignment of making sure that their standards were met, right? So whenever they weren't happy, I heard about it, and I would just be miserable so sometimes we would fight, or sometimes I would fight back, or and then they'd fight back with me. And there was a couple of times where I was like, well, I guess I'm fired.
You really
now I'm fired.
You really thought they were going to fire you?
Oh, we had a couple of pretty gnarly phone calls that were way beyond my level of comfort, and then afterwards, it was like they were totally fine. Like it would be the next day, and like Al would be laughing about it, and I realized like, oh, these guys can fight about something that they're passionate about, and I can take my position and fight back, and we're all good. It changed my life because I literally got comfortable.
Wow.
But looking back, was that a discussion or was it just a fight? Paging Dr. Freud.
It was me defending like why what they wanted was unreasonable. You know,
that's what it is.
Like,
that's like a hockey fight. Two guys fight on the ice, and afterwards it's over. They can go have a beer together.
But that was a whole new thing for me, and it was great. I mean, it really was great. And I'm going to also say that after I left Smallville after season 5, and I went to work on. I've had this conversation with those two guys too. Like I went and worked with lots of other showrunners. I came back to those guys and said, like, I appreciate you guys, because I really appreciated what they were great at, which is very uncommon. I've had showrunners who are just absentee landlords, and that's a nightmare. And I've had showrunners who are like micromanagers, and that's a nightmare. And those guys, like, once they trusted you, they were great delegators. I've never worked with guys who were as good at delegating once they trusted somebody. And so they really let me have a lot of freedom as regards production.
Hey, Beeman, what was your favorite episode that you recall? If all the episodes, what's the one you remember that you were most proud of?
Well, what was it in season? I don't remember the names of any of them, but I think it was season 3, the one where you're in the psych ward, right? And you're painting at the beginning, and then you like escape. You escape. And there was this underground tunnel you were moving through. I really felt like that whole episode was great.
Wait, was that Lex or Clark? I feel like
Lex was in the psych. Lionel had put Lex into the psych ward, and he was in Arkham.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Rosamund?
Oh, I remember.
You were painting like I think I did the painting.
You did. You did the painting.
The sun. And then you escaped, and you.
Sorry to interrupt, but like we're aside from this conversation we're having with you, we're actually talking about an episode where we get to see Warrior Angel, the comic book. And the one memory I have from this episode is you coming in, showing me the comic book. I'm like, that's great. Who drew that? And you're like, I did. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I
mean, Smallville was like, I had I've never really, to this very day, and I get asked, I've done I went on, that was the first show I ever produced, and I now have produced 10 shows, but it's without a doubt the closest to my heart, because things have happened on that show that never happen anymore. Like it was like, okay, like on Thursday nights, the night that the show aired, we'd stop work in the production office, and we'd go into like one of the offices, and like everybody would like sit on the couch and watch the show together. Yeah. So like the production office team would like watch the show together, everybody. And I think I sort of helped initiate this, but it's like, come up with songs, guys, come up with songs. Like, there's 10 songs per episode. Like we need songs. And the PA, the production assistants in the office were coming up with, like, people were throwing ideas that they would later see, realized in the show. And so I've never been on a show where everybody top to bottom was so invested in it,
Speaking to the chaos, and not to sound so like dramatic, but like, one of the reasons why it was fun to watch the show was because it was so chaotic to make it. You kind of wanted to see how it all came together.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, because
didn't Thomas, as the years went by, didn't it become less chaotic? I mean, that was kind of my whole mission. My whole mission was to diminish the chaos, and I feel by season 2, and for sure by season 3 and beyond,
Well, the irony is, as the chaos goes away, you then fight complacency. You know what I mean? It's like we talk about guest stars being on the show, and I always been like, "Thank you for being here," because you're mixing it up, you're changing it. Like, thank you for your energy. You know, it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I learned something about myself too, because like around season 4, when it was running really smoothly, and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm kind of bored. Like, let's. Yeah. I sort of found out about myself that I kind of like that. I like going into the chaos and fixing the chaos, and then once it's fixed, I kind of I'm ready to move on.
We love you, Greg. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Greg.
See you, buddy.
Bye, boys.
Bye. Just love that guy. You could just tell. I mean, we had so much fun with him. You're right. When we heard that Beeman was directing the episode, you just got excited. You were like, oh, this is going to be more fun than it normally would be.
Well, you just knew it was going to be good. No one's going to, he was going to show up prepared. It wasn't even, you didn't have to think about that stuff. You just knew it was going to be great.
Yeah.
And you're going to be taken care of. One of the things he told me when I started directing is he was like, he said, your job is to create an environment for the actor where they can feel safe, so they can be creative. He told me that, and then he like moved on and ate a sandwich. Like, it wasn't like a big moment.
I have a story about Greg that I'll tell you after we're done recording that I can't say on film, but it's one of my favorite moments in history. It's just I want to say it, but I can't. Okay, all right. Now it's time for the hotline, folks. So if you want to call in, it's very easy. Call 213-538-2883 and leave a message. We're going to go to our patrons first. Patron privilege. Here we go. Bob K. Here we go. Let's see what Bob has to say. Bob. Come on, Bob.
Hey, old Bob from New York. Episode Stray for Tom. A lot of emotion, a lot of empathy toward the Ryan character. Tom, what was your motivation for that? Or is that just all you?
I guess it was all me. Because I don't recall. I just remember like knowing this. I think I remember just this kid. I want to help this kid out. And like, I think it probably helped that I was 22 and he was actually 15 in real life. That probably played into it a little bit. Hopefully. Otherwise, it's just awkward. But yeah, I think it was just kind of, we'll get into it later, but the first episode I directed of Smallville, there was a young girl in it, and it was the same sort of just wanting to help guide them and be there for them and listen. And I think that's a good lesson for acting, and I think it's a good lesson in life of just listen. That's what I saw in this.
Thanks, Bob. Garrett.
Hey guys, Garrett W. here from the Smallville Forever group on Patreon. My question is for the episode Stray with Ryan Kelley, who plays Ryan. What was it like working with a younger actor? As you know, up to this point, you guys really hadn't worked with any younger co-stars. So, what was it like working with Ryan? And he does come back later on. Do you guys have any good memories working with him? Thanks so much.
I remember farting in front of him, and he really liked that. I remember he laughed, and he always thought I was goofy, and I had fun with him.
And him and JTT?
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that. But he was a nice kid, as I recall. I really liked him. Tom?
I mean, same. I mean, Kristen, Sam, Kristen, Allison were all younger than me at the time. You were not, and obviously Jonathan and Martha and everybody else, but everybody else was also more experienced than me. So I think and I think Ryan was actually more experienced than I was. So, yeah, I don't have any bad memories. That's good. For sure.
Mickey.
Hey guys, this is Mickey from Michigan. Stray is really the first time that we see just how much Clark loves the bigger brother role. Do you think the side of his character should have been explored more in depth in later seasons, either with the new series regular or just a more reoccurring guest star? And if so, how do you think it would have affected his ability to not only trust, but to rely on others in the future? Thanks for doing the podcast. I've been really enjoying you guys' commentary.
Mickey, I love your voice. I love that you're from the East Coast. You got a cool sounding voice. Let me tell you something. I wish they would have explored it a little more. It was nice to see. Ryan's going to get me sick now because he's fucking sick. But I think it was a nice story, and I thought, stories like that. I didn't want it to end. In fact, I was like, is this a two-parter? But it wasn't. But I thought it'd been cool. Tom?
It's that your question, Mickey, literally just brought this in my mind, that the idea, and I wish my performance could have been better if I realized at the time. Clark can't trust anybody. Yet, so when he meets somebody like Ryan, he gives that trust over. Like, he wants to be trusted. You can confide in me. I will keep your secret. I think that's a gift that Clark can give that he doesn't. You see it with Lex. Can I trust him? Can I not? Obviously, his parents are good, but I think that's the takeaway from this episode.
Rich.
Chris here, calling from Nowheresville, Illinois. In season 1's Stray, what's the deal with Lionel fondling those 2 blue billiard balls during this last scene with Lex? It looked cool and the scene was great, but I had to wonder.
Was that scripted?
Ryan wrote that down.
I was like, interesting choice.
He's always up to something. He's like, what can I do that's provocative?
But do you actually recall him asking for that, or just they were there and he picked them up?
I'm sure I've said something about it. I'm sure I said, holding those blue balls, huh? And I'm sure he made a joke like, blue balls, Lex. Oh.
Well, but a lot of times when, like, from the props department, if you're not using a prop, they take it away. It's not like if we're in the southeast corner of the Luther office and you and I are in front of the desk. It's not like they put the billiards ball in the billiards table. Like, those are stored somewhere. They don't have everything out all the time. So I'm just wondering if it was written, or they were there, or he asked for them.
I think the balls were there. I think they usually had the balls on the table.
All I wanted was for you to say something. I think the balls were there.
Here's
That's
Sarah.
what I want.
Let's talk to Sarah.
That's what I want.
Hey, it's Sarah calling from Georgia. My question is for Stray. I really love Ryan's character, and Ryan is actually one of the first people that Clark can be honest with and confide in, which is a breath of fresh air when you have him hiding a secret from everyone all the time. What do you think the series would have looked like if the Kents had actually adopted Ryan?
I think it would have been too weird. Like, he's always reading minds and shit. I think it would have been kind of annoying. Like, he's like, "Oh, Mr. Kent, you want to have sex with Mrs. Kent?" Damn it, Ryan. I think it would have got annoying. And also, it's enough to deal with one kid with these issues or these things that, that make him special. But, like, it's like 2 kids with superpowers. I don't know, man. I
just think it's so funny that you went there so fast, because I went to, well, inevitably, Ryan would have felt like he needed his own space and get out from underneath Clark's shadow. Like, that's where I went, like, story-wise. You're like reading the perv mind of Jonathan Kent.
This is Fuller. Let's listen to Fuller's question.
It's funny.
This is Fuller from Gainesville, Florida. My question's about episode 16 of season 1, Stray. What about Ryan makes you think that he was the first quote-unquote freak of the week to come back as a recurring character in season 2, having his own character named episode?
Doesn't that other kid come back? The bug boy?
Wait a minute. So he comes back for season 2?
I don't know. There is an episode in season 2, according to IMDb. It's just called Ryan. And apparently Clark goes to rescue Ryan from some sort of situation.
In season 2?
In season 2.
So Ryan comes back?
Yes.
Okay, so is this the kid who has... In that episode, does he have an older brother?
Doesn't Ryan get sick or something? He's dying?
God, we sound so stupid right now. But
who cares? Guys, if we sound stupid, we're figuring shit out. Give us a break.
It's been a while.
I'm sure the fans can write in and let us know what the hell's going on. They always do. I get texts or emails or messages all the time saying, "You guys are wrong about this." And of course we're wrong. We're just actors for hire. We don't remember anything. We're trying.
I don't even read the scenes I'm not in.
Leora says, "Do you think Ryan replaced his favorite superhero with Clark, and that's the reason he parted with his comic?" Yes, I do. That's exactly what he did. He even says it. He says, "You're my superhero now. You're my hero, Clark." Overall, Guys, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a little campy with the stepfather and the woman and everything.
But you needed that. You needed that as a vehicle. You needed that fuel.
Also, it sort of seems like you needed Ryan this late in the season because everyone's just been keeping secrets from each other. He's just sort of like spitting it out, like, "Hey, Chloe loves you, Lana loves you. Well, watch out for Lex."
Yeah,
like it's like he's just sort of like calling it all out.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone.
Saying a lot of things that nobody knew already.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody knew that shit.
It's like shining a light on it for sure.
I really enjoyed this episode. The highlights were, any scene with Ryan was really good when he got emotional. Everyone was really good in this episode. I like the scenes with Clark and Lex. I like the scenes with Clark, his family, and Ryan. Those were the moments I enjoyed the most.
Yeah, the foil outside of the limo. Yeah.
Yeah, that except for that moment. The lowlights, there were a couple exactly like the foil being given and a couple other campy moments. But other than that, I thought it was a fun episode. And I guess we're gonna have to rate this son of a gun.
I am going to give it a. I'm gonna give it.
I like how Ryan. He doesn't figure it out beforehand. Neither do I, by the way.
I don't either.
I wait till
none of us do.
I don't.
I like to talk it out and then see how I feel.
1
rose for Ryan Tejas, Thomas Welling.
I was gonna say 1.5, so I'm 1.5.
1.5.
I think it's worth watching.
It's either 1 rose or 1.5 roses for me.
Well, I mean, be nice. If it's between the two, take.
All right, 1.5. I'll go 1.5. I'll go 1.5 roses. 1.5 roses for me and Tommy. Ryan gives it a rose. The death count, how many people got saved, how many people died? 3 died. James Gibson shoots and kills a pawn shop owner, his wife, and a janitor. 1 person saved. Clark saves Ryan by hitting James with a bowling ball, knocking him out for the police to apprehend.
By the way, not just died, blown away.
Yeah.
Like blown away.
Blown away.
By the way, I saw that thing. I don't know who did it on Instagram, but I saw it where they started rating our rose ratings.
Oh yeah.
And I was actually like, it's amazing how close we are.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Pretty good. I'm a little more positive than you are.
Damn it.
You
Through 16 episodes, 20. I'm more realistic. 24 dead, 30 saved through 16 episodes, and now it's time for Ryan's favorite scene. Brought to you by.
Tom. I'm just off the bat. It was a good scene, but it's not on my top 3.
Oh, that one scene.
That one scene that you mentioned.
Right.
Just to get that out of the way.
Here we go.
I just kept it to the end. The scene where Clark throws a bowling ball through the walls.
Yep.
The last scene with Lex and Lionel, where Lex is standing up for himself and the blue balls.
Okay.
And then the final scene with the epic needle drop of 5 for fighting, because I gave it to Hero that one time.
So 2 out of the 3 have balls. Okay, I'm gonna go blue balls.
I'm gonna go the song because he said he's been waiting for the song forever. I'm gonna go with 3. What is it, Ryan?
It's 3.
Yes, I win again. Tom, you got to listen, buddy. The cues are all there.
Okay, so you heard the song, big deal. The scene's not great. The scene, Lionel, like that's creative.
It just encapsulates a time in history.
I just don't understand how your mind works.
And now you're getting frustrated. Now you're taking it out on Ryan for his choices. You can't be like that, Tom. You got to take your loss.
198 more episodes to figure you out.
There's plenty of time.
This was a fun episode, a good episode to talk. Thank you, Greg Beeman, our good buddy, director, showrunner of Smallville, for being here. He'll be back. We're going to keep bringing people on periodically. I'm going to bring Annette O'Toole on. We'd like to have Kristen on again. Maybe we'll get Sam Jones. Maybe we'll get Annette O'Toole. Maybe Michael McKeon, who plays later. We'll get Aaron Ashmore. Erica
Do you mean
Durant.
Ian Somerhalder?
He won't do it. He doesn't even return my emails.
Do you know that I've known Ian since I was 19 years old?
Really? You guys modeled
when he
together?
came on to Smallville, we hadn't spoken in a long, like just for no reason other than we hadn't seen each other. And he was on set and I was like, hey, and he's like, hey, I was like, we've known each other for 10 years already. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he's a nice guy. He does a lot for the community and stuff. So good for him. Once again, if you want to call in to the hotline, 213-538-2883. And of course, follow us on our handles. We need you. Talkville at Talkville Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. At Talkville Pod on Twitter. And of course, patreon.com/Talkville to join Patreon and support the podcast. We could use your help. We're going to read the names of all the top tier patrons here in a second. But that's it for this episode. Stick around next week as we have some more fun and talk about the episode number 17. It's called Reaper. Let's take the discussion online. Let us know your thoughts on the episode on the socials. We told you about the hotline number, and hey, this was a good time. It's always good to be with you boys. Ryan, feel better?
I will try.
Please do it.
Yeah.
Please feel better. Tom, always good seeing you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And remember, folks, be good to yourselves and always hold on to Smallville. We'll see you next week. It is now time for the shout outs, our top tier patrons. We couldn't do this without you. Seriously. Patreon.com/Talkville. Tom, one thing I'll say before we start this, you got the Winchesters. It's the prequel to Supernatural. You got the Professionals. I mean, Warner Brothers. Tom Welling is owning the Warner Brothers lately. It's pretty cool, dude. I'm stoked for you.
I think they're going to change the name of the network from CW to TW because we got
the TW.
We got two hours of Tom Welling back to back. This will never happen again, folks. Never.
Next on the old new TW. All right, cool. Congrats, man. Here we'll do the shout outs.
Thank you.
Nikki G, Leanne P, Raj C, Janine R, Santiago M, Leah S, Little Lisa, Tom T.
Sophie M, Betsy D, your favorite.
Who's that?
Liliana A.
Oh, yeah.
I always mess it up. Abhi P, Chris F, Kimberly E, Michael H, Ray H, Karen M, Danielle B, 99 more.
Lalani N, Catherine P, Brett G, Super Sam, always hold on to Smallville. Jeffy, Estevan G, DJ Kento T, Garrett W, Just JTR, Kimberly L, Teresa, Justin S.
Yeah. Then we got Tom N, Tony V, Rodolfo V, Jason W, Osama A, happy birthday. Nancy D, Brian G, Sarah W, Megan H, Artoon K, Justin T, and Lucy O.
Grape Jelly 817, Jeremy G, Amanda R, Teddy 127, Michael P, Theo M, Ryan R, Grumpyitis, Jordan M, Hillary B, The Blur with a 3, Craig G, Christy R, Pollyanna, Karen P.
Well done. Derek G, Jor L, my dad, Rachel S, Heather and Greg, Nico P, Jason Ramona, Brian H, Jason Momoa, just kidding, Jason M, Georgina B, Eric K, Kevin E, Craig, Ashley Ryan, Nanine W, and Stephanie K.
Aaron K, Darth A, Richard R, Finky, Kenny S, Sydney S, Tito G, Mickey Mick, Logan D, Stephen F. Damn, who's that? Dead Vid, Allison H, General Zod, Warren N, Amara R, Ippy K, Theodore, It's _Kitty, Craig, Kraic, Craig, Drew M, Connor M, and Nathan. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week, Tommy.
Yeah, if not for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this.
Amen. Amen. See you guys later.